So, welcome. Welcome to this second video of this course on the visualization of the Tantric Stupa, Buddhist Introduction to Meditation with the visualization of the Tantric Stupa. We've already seen quite a lot. We saw the start of the association of the stupa with Buddhism, namely with the Buddha, with the Buddha's parinirvana, and the burial mounds that were built for his relics in different places. And we saw the image of the stupa that we use in meditation. We'll see it again a bit later, and saw the different coloured forms which make up the stupa and are symbolized by the different elements: earth, air, fire, air and space. We look more closely at the yellow cube at the bottom, which symbolizes the element earth. Earth like rock, metal and soil. Earth which exists in us as bone, muscles and flesh. Earth which has the qualities of solidity and resistance. And we were introduced to Triratna, one of the 5 Buddha mandala, the jewel-born golden Buddha, who represents the wisdom of equality and is associated with the element earth. We chanted his mantra while visualizing the stupa. And of course we were introduced to visualization in general. We learned that you don't need to literally visualize. Sometimes it's okay, for some people it's okay just to feel or intuit that the stupa's there. That the stupa's there in front of us, or inside us, another option. We can visualize the stupa inside us, and that way we connect the element earth with our body, with the gold, with the yellow cube, with our body. And we found where to do it. At the place 4 finger width below the navel. I'll let you use your imagination. The place of the lowest chakra. And all of this happened within the stupa visualization practice itself. But before that, we learnt a supporting meditation practice connected to the element earth, the mindfulness of the body, the meditation on the mindfulness of the body, and received questions. You received questions about your relationship to the stupa and to the other practices, and you were invited to share your experience. So that's where we've already been. So, where will we be going during this video? Well, we'll begin by looking at the meaning of symbolism in general. and specifically its purpose in Tantric Buddhism. And we'll continue looking at the shapes of the forms and colours of the stupa, looking at the white sphere of the stupa, associated with the element water, and associated with the Buddha Akshobhya. We'll be looking at his wisdom and his mantra and chanting it, and the chakra, where we can visualize the white sphere. Our supporting meditation will be Formless Meditation, and I'll explain, and we'll do a guided meditation of Formless Meditation as well. So, we're starting by looking at the meaning of symbolism. There's an awful lot that could be said about this, but I'll confine myself to one source, albeit an encyclopedic source, and that's Sangharakshita again, and his book, Creative Symbols in Tantric Buddhism. And looking at the symbolism, when looking at symbolism in Buddhism, we need to clarify that symbolism, ritual, mantras, with a special emphasis of the Vajrayana, or Tantric Buddhism, the third great phase in the development of Buddhism. People often talk about the Hinayana and the Mahayana. The Hinayana, the lesser vehicle, can be more respectfully referred to as the Theravada, or School of Elders, or it can be simply considered early Buddhism. The Mahayana, the Great Way, so considered by its followers, was the second great phase. And finally, the Vajrayana, the way of the Vajra, or Tantric Buddhism. Each new yana could be seen as a reaction to the previous yana, making up for deficiencies of the previous yana, a development on the previous yana. So, when we look at the meaning of symbolism in Buddhism, and looking at it in the Vajrayana or Tantric Buddhism, well, that's the context that we're looking at it in, the third great stage in the development of Eastern Buddhism. That's how we'll start tonight, today. Sangharakshita, the founder of our tradition and my main teacher, talked about personally meeting the Tantra, if you can put it like that, in the north of east of India in the 1950s, even to begin with in the late 1940s. He was an Englishman meeting the Tantra in the days before reliable books in English. He described the Tantra with all its rituals, mantras and symbols as a jungle, a very rich and complex jungle that was very easy to get lost in. Although, from the intellectual point of view, getting lost might not be a bad thing. Symbols aren't about intellectual understanding. A symbol can attract us. We can't really say why. An image, a symbol can disturb us. We can't really say why. It might be worth noting that some people doubt whether we can be aware of anything other than words. The challenge I would give you would be to describe a crankshaft. We know what one is. Motor mechanics and bikers know very well what one is. But our description, in all probability, would be either wholly inadequate or verbose. But back to Sangharakshita and back to northeast India. He met practitioners of the Tantra, including great gurus of their day. He received initiations and started to practice himself. And he came to understand the Tantra, not as a jungle, but as a complex of gardens with interlocking patterns. And these patterns, they weren't intellectual patterns. They were spiritual patterns. And these spiritual patterns revealed the Tantra's innermost purpose and essential nature. So what is the Tantra's innermost purpose and essential nature? It's not concerned with theory and speculation and knowledge. It's not concerned with formal religion and external acts of piety. In its place, it's concerned with direct experience. Direct experience of us in our depths, of what we in essence are. It's concerned with the discovery of our essential nature. Our essential nature not only psychologically, but existentially and transcendentally. The Tantra says, the Tantra recognizes that you can't express your higher spiritual experience by concepts. You can't express your transcendental experience by concepts. What can you express of your everyday experience by concepts? That's a good question too. And we'll be looking at it. We'll come back to it later when we look at the element of consciousness and its association with shunyata, emptiness, in the 6th video. But for now, enough to say, concepts can't do anything to help us express our higher experience. Concepts can't, but something might be awoken. We might grasp something. For an instance, we might see something by means of symbols. And that's why the Tantra is so full of symbolic images, of mantras and rituals. So what is a symbol? We've seen that a symbol can help us have direct experience of our true nature. But it's impossible to define conceptually. Even the nature of a symbol can't be defined, let alone a specific symbol. It's best to let them speak for themselves. But nonetheless, we can say something, even if we can't define them, something that will point us in the right direction, so as not to be left in silence for the rest of the video, heaven forbid. So what can we say? We can say a symbol is not a sign. And what is a sign? A sign is something that can be understood by something else. A sign can be understood by a word or expression. Road signs tell us what not to do, how fast we shouldn't drive, for example. But what does a lotus mean? A popular image in Buddhism. We could say a lotus stands for, we could even say a lotus symbolizes purity. But if we do that, we're taking the lotus as a sign, not a symbol. We're relating to the lotus as a sign, not a symbol. And that might be okay. It's better than letting us flap about in silence. I might even slip into saying such and such symbolizes such and such. But it is important to remember that a symbol, at least a symbol in a higher sense, can't be explained conceptually. A symbol can only be understood by itself. And even though it has form and colour, it's hard to express what they express. It's hard to put into words. What they express is hard to put into words. Like dreams that leave that have left a strong impression. But what that impression is hard to put into words. We can look at a lotus. We can learn all its botanical characteristics, cram more and more knowledge about it, learn facts about it, read books, even read books on the history of symbolism of the lotus in Buddhism. But to approach a lotus as a symbol, it would be better instead to simply concentrate our minds on the image of a lotus. Maybe even clear our minds and concentrate on the image of a lotus. And ask yourself, what do you feel? What does it evoke? What arises in you? What is the lotus, even? Sangharakshita talks about seeing a lotus as a symbol means seeing a higher dimension of reality of the lotus. Seeing the lotus illuminated, we could say, by reality. Buddhist texts sometimes call this undefinable dimension of things shunyata, emptiness. But this higher dimension isn't something separate from the lotus. It's certainly not something standing behind the lotus. But nonetheless, it's something other than it. When we say the lotus appears to be illuminated, the key word here is appear. The lotus appears illuminated when seen in a certain way. What is this certain way? It means under certain conditions. It means independence on the perception of the perceiver. To see these deeper dimensions of reality, these illuminations, which make the lotus a symbol, we need to be receptive. It doesn't happen automatically. It requires a meditative state of mind. It requires us to have a meditative state of mind. A question or two for you now. Having looked at symbols and signs, or signs and symbols, what's your experience of signs and symbols? What's your feeling for them? Your inspiration from them? And the second question, the experience of illuminated symbols. Is that something that speaks to you? Have you had an experience of something seeming illuminated, even if only at your highest moments? So, in meditative states of mind, all that we see as having a higher dimension of reality. We see all as illuminated. Clouds, trees, the sky, and buildings, cars, and people. We meet with shunyata everywhere. We meet with emptiness everywhere. In essence, then, all experience is symbolic. We can't say one thing's a symbol and another isn't. Only some are more symbolic than others. We feel some things are more symbolic than others. A beautiful sunset over an unemptied rubbish bin. So there is a hierarchy of symbolism. Jung discovered there are archetypal symbols, universal symbols that exist in all cultures. We can say these universal symbols are more symbolic than others. They are higher up the hierarchy of symbolism. What things are most symbolic for you? Another question for you. What's in the higher regions of your hierarchy of symbolism? For Buddhists, on top of the hierarchy of symbols come the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Why? Because they are symbols of enlightenment. And enlightenment is the highest that there is. But there's something very important to remember here. We need to stay true to our actual experience. Our actual experience is symbols. Our actual experience meaning our personal experience, our personal feeling. Just because the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are top of the hierarchy doesn't mean they're on top for us. And if they're not, and we treat them as they are, then that will impede our connections with all symbols. It gives rise to a question: how do we know if something is a symbol for us? What is our personal experience? What is our personal feeling that we're looking for? And the key question is, does the symbol arouse all our energies? Does it arouse all our interest? Does it deeply touch us? Does it awaken something deep inside? And if it doesn't, well, then it's still just an idea. It's not, shall we say, a symbol of a Buddha, but a picture on a wall. What does, a question for you now, awaken and arouse all your interest, all your energies? So if pictures of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are not symbols for us, what can we do? Luckily, we can approach symbols by degrees, in stages, and gradually, taking steps in the right direction. We can approach symbols even as signs. A particular Buddha, when looking at the Buddha, the 5 Buddha mandala, for example, is a particular symbol of enlightenment. This particular Buddha, with particular qualities. And these qualities might be easier for us to connect to. Their particular wisdoms might be easier for us to connect to. Their colours, what they hold in their hands, might be easier to connect to. This works because we can understand one symbol by means of another. First, we need to find what we do genuinely connect to. We need to find what genuinely, what actually arouses all our energies. A question for you, again. What quality of enlightenment do you most connect to? thinking back to all you've heard of enlightenment and the quality of the Buddha and Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Which is the most attractive? To take an example, the Buddha Amitabha, who we'll be introduced to in the next video. He's the Buddha of infinite light and of infinite love. The quality of infinite love is one of his qualities. And if Buddhas are ideas for us rather than symbols, then we can get interested in love. It shouldn't be too difficult. Love can often deeply move us. Maybe we can remember what it's like to be in love. Remember the first time we were in love. And imagine feeling that love for anybody, heaven forbid, and everybody. And reflecting on the quality of universal love, eternal love, the all-encompassing love of Amitabha. What would it be like to feel like that? And incidentally, we could say this is the meaning of the Yab-Yang symbolism of Tantric Buddhism. Buddha figures in sexual union with their consorts. It's not about having sex, but engaging our deeper energies, which are real symbols for us, in a sense of they deeply move us. They awaken something deep, our deepest energies, and becoming conscious of them, getting these energies out into the open, so we can put them at the service of our spiritual lives and transform them. A question for you. What do you think about the possibility of such transformation? What do you feel about the possibility of such transformation? Spiritual life means finding deeper meaning in everyday life. Nirvana isn't another place somewhere far away. Mystics see all with light shining out from within. The aim of this course is to present symbols so as to we see them as symbols in a way that has real meaning and interest. But that demands us to be receptive. The more receptive we are, the more aware, the more we give these symbols our attention, our energy, then the more we'll feel the resonances of the words that describe them. The more we see their pictures in our minds, the more alive these symbols will be for us. And symbols aren't dead. They're full of energy, full of creative energy. They influence us. They work on us. They transform us if we are receptive. They stand for something we are not yet conscious of, but something we can become conscious of right now. So now, thanks to Sangharajita, we've seen the meaning of symbols, the purpose of symbols, the power even of symbols. Let's turn again to the Tantric Stupa, our aim being the visualization of the Tantric Stupa as an instrument for direct experience of our true nature. So let's see the stupa. Let's look at the stupa one more time. Try that again. That's better. So, the Tantric Stupa. Or if you like this version, I still haven't decided which I like better. They both have pluses and minuses. Let's stick with this one. So we can see the 5 forms, each with its own colour. We have the yellow cube at the bottom, associated with the element earth. The white sphere, associated with water. The red cone, fire, temperature. And the pale green upturned hemisphere, space, air. The pale green upturned hemisphere, air. And then on top, the flaming drop, space. All in a context of the clear blue sky, associated with the element of consciousness. So that's the stupa, forms and colours of the stupa and the elements they're associated with. We've already seen the yellow cube associated with the element earth in more detail in the first video. Now it's the turn of the white sphere. Sometimes it's a blue sphere, but for us, it's white. And as I've said, it's associated with the element water. Water found in oceans, lakes, rivers, and streams. Water found in rain falling from clouds, in the dew on the petals of flowers at dawn. Water found in us right now as blood, urine, sweat, saliva and tears. The qualities of water being fluidity and cohesion. The meaning of these qualities we'll look at in the next video, the general meaning. But it's enough to say the qualities of fluidity and cohesion. Fluidity. Water doesn't have its own shape. It's constantly changing shape. Consciously. Constantly changing its shape to the shape available to it. In cohesion, water stays together as a drop or as a mighty ocean. We can also notice that water flows downwards. Sometimes it flows from side to side, like the tide, but it doesn't go up. So our white sphere, the element water, our theme for today. So we've looked at the qualities of water, fluidity and cohesion, and to develop our awareness of the water element, we'll do a supporting practice, a supporting meditation that reflects the qualities of this element, and it's called Formless Meditation. Formless means, of course, it doesn't have a form. So you could say it takes the shape of our consciousness, just like water taking the shape of the space it finds itself in. So what is formless meditation? It's a bit different to the other practices we've learned. Most meditation practices are what we might call active practices. We're trying to do something consciously. We're consciously trying to do something, to be aware of something, develop something, visualize something even. It's good But it's not enough. We also need the quality of receptivity in order to see what's already there, to see what might be. We can develop receptivity by stopping and relaxing, by stopping making an effort. We just sit. For example, we just sit after meditating. It's called sitting on, and we might have a deeper experience than while we were meditating itself. But often, if we just start the meditation by relaxing, there's a danger we'll just end up drifting, going with the flow, in a semi-conscious sort of way. And this won't really help us meditate. So, to overcome the difficulty, a practice was developed in Triratna called Formless Meditation, in order to get the benefits of being receptive, but without the danger of drifting. We still do make an effort to be more conscious and aware, but without an object, without a specific object, without a defined object. We don't decide what we're going to be aware of. It means we don't decide to be aware of the body. We don't decide to follow the breath. We don't try to develop metta. We don't try to see anything. But in its place, we just try to be aware of what's happening, without choosing what we want to happen, or what we'd like to happen, not controlling what's happening. So we don't choose, we don't control where our attention goes. It could be outside the body, it could be inside. We don't choose or control where in the body. We just try to be as aware as possible wherever it is. We don't control our thoughts. We don't choose what we're going to think about, be they deep philosophical questions, or what we're going to eat for dinner. We just try to be aware as possible. We don't choose what emotions we want to have. We don't control our emotions. We don't choose what energies. We don't try to control our energies or hold back our energies. So, formless meditation. So we're nearly ready to try formless meditation. A question for you now: how does it sound, formless meditation? Liberating, or baffling, or scary, or something else? An important point to make: that watching our thoughts is different to actively thinking about something. It might help us in a practice to consciously decide not to attach to a train of thought. Instead, we can just watch the thoughts come and go, like clouds passing in a clear blue sky, and without following them, without starting to think about something. It's fascinating, I find. One moment I'm sitting here somewhere, aware of my body, and the next I'm remembering something that maybe happened 10 or 20 or 40 years ago. How did it happen? Why did it happen? That particular thought, that particular memory. And there seems to be an invisible bridge between the body and the memory. How did the transition take place? To say a little more about being aware of our emotions and energies. Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's sexual arousal. We can nonetheless approach them with an attitude of openness, interest and warmth. Again, trying to become as aware as possible of what's happening, without choosing what's happening, without controlling what's happening, without becoming attached to them, letting emotions and energies come and go. We can say that we're being receptive to ourselves as an object, being as receptive as we can be to the whole of ourselves. It's a bit like watching TV when we also are the TV. At the same time, we're the person watching TV, both subject and object. So this is formless meditation, making an effort to be consciously aware without choosing anything in particular to be aware of, watching the elements, the aspects of our experience come and go. We'll do it in a moment. For one last question. Active meditation practice is receptive? Which do you prefer? Which sound more appealing? And can you say why? Okay, so all ready to do the practice. Just put the bolster behind my back to help me stay in an upright posture. So, formless meditation it will be, but even though it is formless to begin with, I'll say a few words just to allow us to focus a little bit. And then there'll be an open period of formless meditation, lasting about 15 minutes. Formless Meditation. Taking a moment just to arrive in your body, and then to arrive more deeply in your room. And listening to all the sounds around you. And focusing your attention now more deeply on your body, looking to notice all the different sensations that are there. Looking to notice the endless flow of changing sensations in our body. As we relax into formless meditation. Now, bring your attention back to your body as a whole, seated here. And bringing your attention out into the room by listening to all the sounds around you. And preparing to end the practice. And slowly and gently opening your eyes. For me, the time went very quickly. How did the practice go for you? A question for chat, or reply on WhatsApp or Telegram. So, at last, we're ready to turn to the Stupa visualization practice itself. Just a reminder about visualization. Visualization is the creative use of our imagination, using it for our benefit, not for our detriment. Genuinely benefiting ourselves is a benefit to others. We can now add visualization. Means connecting to symbols using our imagination, seeing a higher reality shining through the symbols, seeing reality illuminate symbols, the illuminated nature of symbols. So, moving to the stupa, as we saw in the last video, we can visualize the stupa in front of us. But not everybody can visualize, literally visualize, and that's okay. You can just get a sense or an intuition of the stupa before you. You can also visualize the stupa inside us. That helps because it means our body awareness becomes part of the practice. The forms of the stupa correspond to different parts of our body. They correspond to the chakras, the energetic centers in our body. And we saw how the yellow cube that we can see here is associated with the element earth and found at the level of the lowest chakra, the width of 4 fingers below our navel. The white sphere found above the yellow cube, which is associated with the water element, correspond to the chakra around our navel. We talk of reactions coming from our gut reactions, crude and powerful responses. And we can visualize the white sphere at the level of our navel. The Buddha is associated with the white sphere, which is sometimes a blue sphere, but for us it's a white sphere. And associated with the water element is Akshobhya. Let's have a look at him now. So yes, Akshobhya, deep blue Buddha. The artist is Aloka, an order member living in the UK. Excuse me. Bless me. And the wisdom of Akshobhya, the blue Buddha, is a mirror-like wisdom. With the mirror, there are no distortions. Nothing is added. Nothing is taken away. And so when our mind is perfectly still, no distortions. When water is perfectly still, it can perfectly reflect an object when there are no waves, no ripples. And this is the mirror-like wisdom of Akshobhya. We chant his mantra during the stupa visualization. Om Vajrakshobhya Om. And just like the picture of Akshobhya is a visual image of him, and a visual image of his spiritual qualities, so his mantra is an oral image. If the mirror-like wisdom had a sound, that sound would be the sound of his mantra. I'll chant the mantra twice by myself during the visualization practice, and then you can join in if you like. During the meditation, you'll also hear an evocation of the water element. We saw last time how Sangharakshita was also a poet. He wrote the poem, The Six Elements Speak. So we'll hear a verse about the water element during the practice. The water element in the universe, the water element in us, and the fact that sooner or later, maybe later today or in 50 years' time, we'll have to give the water element back to the universe when we die. The water element will cease to be ours, cease to be us. So, we're ready to do the stupa visualization practice. I'll lead through it once again. Just setting up my posture so as to be upright and comfortable during the meditation. A very important basis for practice every time. And I'll show an image of the stupa while we practice. So taking a moment once again to bring your attention into the room where you find yourself by listening to all the sounds around you. And bringing your attention to your body. The endless flow of changing sensations. And now, looking to see the clear blue sky before us and behind, to the left and the right, above and below, all around us. Vibrant, endless blue. And in the midst of the clear blue sky, you see, you feel a brilliant yellow cube. Before us, inside us. This is Earth, the element Earth. It speaks to us. I am Earth. I am rock, metal, and soil. I am that which exists in you, as bone, muscle, and flesh. Above the yellow cube, you see the dazzling white sphere. The element water. It speaks to us. I am water. I am ocean, lake, rivers and streams, the rain that falls from the clouds, and the dew on the petals of flowers. I am that which exists in you, as blood, urine, sweat, saliva and tears. But now I must go, leaving you dry. Now we must part. Goodbye. Above the white sphere, we see a fiery red cone. The element fire. Above the red cone, we see a pale green hemisphere, upturned. The element air. And above the green hemisphere, we see a flaming drop. Flaming drop. The element space. So now we can see, we can feel the stupa as a whole. All the elements of existence, of your existence. present in the clear blue sky. The sky of consciousness. So you can see your existence as a whole. Feel your existence as a whole. This is your true nature. What is your true nature? And now, the flaming drop slowly dissolves into the pale green hemisphere. The pale green hemisphere slowly dissolves into the red cone. The red cone slowly dissolves into the white sphere. As we chant the mantra of the Buddha, Akshobhya. Om Vajrakshobhya Om Om Vajrakshobhya Om Om Vajrakshobhya Om Vajrakshobhya Om Vajrakshobhya Om Vajrakshobhya 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 Adrakshobhya 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 And now the white sphere slowly dissolves into the yellow cube. And the yellow cube slowly dissolves into the clear blue sky. Leaving us in this vibrant expanse of endless sky, endless possibility. And eventually, the clear blue sky itself dissolves away, leaving us where we started, and taking a little while to absorb the effects of the practice. And when you're ready, slowly and gently opening your eyes. So, how did it go? The Stupa visualization practice. Please let us know. And we're almost at the end of another video. A brief resume. We looked at the meaning of symbolism in general, and the symbolism of the white sphere in the stupa, associated with the water element. We were introduced to the Buddha, the deep blue Buddha Akshobhya, with the mirror-like wisdom. And we did this stupa visualization practice with the mantra of the Buddha Akshobhya, and learnt the supporting meditation practice, Formless Meditation. The questions for you to reflect on and answer and share. What is our experience of signs and symbols? And does the idea of illuminated symbols speak to us? What is most symbolic for us? What's top of our hierarchy of symbols? And what arouses our energies most strongly? We might feel a little embarrassed to say that. What is most interesting? And how do we feel about the possibility of being transformed by symbols? Which practices are more appealing, active ones or receptive ones? How did formless meditation go? And how did the visualization of the Tantric Stupa go? In the week ahead, what we can do to continue our practice, continue our exploration and development. Of course, we can try formless meditation. We can try the stupa visualization and or chanting Akshobhya's mantra. And noticing the symbols in our lives and reflecting on symbolic meaning. And trying our best to see with crystal clear clarity, embodying in ourselves the mirror-like wisdom. Next week, we'll be looking more deeply at the symbolism of the elements, more deeply than we've heard about them so far. And specifically, we'll be looking at the red cone, the element of fire, heat and temperature. Our Buddha will be the red Buddha, Amitabha, discriminating wisdom, the Buddha of infinite love and light. And very appropriately, our supporting meditation will be the Metabhavana, development of universal loving kindness. My wish for you is a week where the currents of your energies and emotions flow freely, but receptively to the shapes of life you find yourself in. And the ability to have a crystal clear vision, a mirror-like vision of yourself and the world around you. Thank you for your attention.